how does your faith affect how you interact with your illustration clients and how you approach your work?
Yeah, that's a great question. That I still am trying to figure that out even after all these years. I don't make a big thing about it. I've worked with Christian clients and Christian projects, but I mean, if anybody hires me, I'm as a professional illustrator. That's where I think my calling is. My goal is to try and do what's best for the client and be helpful to them and try to be kind and professional and give them good quality work. I do occasionally get requests for projects that I can't do because of my what Christianity teaches about certain issues. So that's been it's come up a couple times. I try to, if I have to decline a project, I try to say something like, I want to help you, but because of my faith, my religion teaches me that would be incompatible, and so you'd probably want to have somebody on board who's really going to be excited about your project and really put their whole heart into it. And unfortunately, I can't do that. I want to, but I just can't. And so respectfully decline and try and frame it that way so that it's showing that I'm still trying to put their needs first. But I also do Christian projects. I've been able to work on a lot of fun things, and I did a web comic. I've always wanted to be a cartoonist, and really enjoyed reading I'm old enough to remember reading the newspaper comics every day, and I read a lot of comic books growing up and Mad Magazine, and I always thought that would just be the coolest job ever. A few years ago, I started doing a web comic called Sketchbook Silliness, which was just me goofing around in my sketchbook and trying to write jokes and be silly. And it started out as really lame dad jokes, but some of them got to be, a few of them got popular and were shared around. And did that for about 3 years. And every once in a while, I would do something more serious about my Christian faith. And some of those comics were the most popular and the most widely shared. And after 3 years of doing that, I just wasn't making any money at it, even though I was getting a lot of followers and a couple of my comics went viral. It's just really hard to make a living at that. So I had to quit doing it, and then just did freelancing again for a few years. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to try and just do like some Christian web comics. It's just something I feel like I want to do. I was actually inspired a lot by the work you were doing. Guys like Adam Ford and you are two guys I was watching a lot who just were doing all this Christian stuff and using their talents to put messages out there. I feel really strongly that in our culture right now, especially, we need more Christians to, in a loving and thoughtful way, to try and present the truth of the gospel and of God and the Bible to our culture, which is just going all different directions, and try and we can't just kind of coast along, and we just can't just keep coasting on the luxury of the cult, where I grew up with, where you just kind of assume everybody's kind of, going along and everything's fine. It's not fine anymore. And so I'm trying to be more bold and outspoken somewhat with my comics and stuff, but I haven't really brought that over too much into my freelance work for my clients. I kind of see that as like a separate thing,
Right.
in my mind. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, that makes total sense. When you decline those jobs based on your convictions, do you ever get any pushback from that?
no. Usually, if that's the way it comes out, a client approaches me and I just have to politely decline it like that. No, that's all worked out fine. Everybody's always been great about it. The only pushback I've ever gotten was on social media, like on my personal views about things. A while back, I made the decision to have like a separate account for my illustration studio and then my personal Facebook or whatever. My personal Facebook and on my illustration studio, I just try to keep things pretty much about artwork stuff most of the time, and on Twitter and whatever. But on my personal side, I'm trying to I would be more vocal. And there was in Minnesota a few years ago when there was a vote to change our constitution, I think, to make gay marriage a legal thing, and I didn't think that was right and was vocal about it. And I had a client who I had been doing some work for a cussed me out on Facebook and said, I'm never working with you again, and blah, blah, blah. That's probably the worst it's ever gotten. But I haven't had to pay too high a price for anything yet. Most people are easygoing and kind. Even if they don't agree with me, they've been very respectful. So
That's
I've been
good.
that way, I think.